Good day, good night, and welcome to World Cup Today. Mexico feelings this morning. Duane Rollins with myself, Kevin Laramee, sportspodcastnetwork.com. Visit sportsinspired.ca for clothes inspired by greatness. Duane, Mexico, Germany lived up to the hype, but the hype was on the wrong side according to the prognostics. We anticipated Germany to look good. They did not. Did they miss the memo? Did they forget to evolve since 4 years ago?
Maybe. Look, Mexico was full measure for that win. That's we see upsets in the World Cup all the time, but we sort of push them aside and say, oh, it was fun, it was great, it was a one game off. But Mexico actually outplayed Germany. I mean, Germany has a lot of ball after Mexico got the lead, but an amazing performance by the Mexicans and a performance that was a real marker for them in this tournament. And maybe their best result ever. And Mexico's had a good history, right?
No, it's the best result ever for Mexico. It's the best Mexican performance I've ever seen. The way they played, like you mentioned, it was full measure. A team that played according to its game plan and was able to connect so quickly between players with the ball, moving the block forward, creating pressure, creating opportunity. And then once Lozano scored that goal, they were able to hold on defensively and hit them on the counter and have a few opportunities there. Yes, Germany did have 24 shots, 9 on target. Ochoa, the wall, stayed in front of all of them. But you did have a few shots that were very, very close. But yeah, Mexico, a full performance defensively, offensively, in the transitions, the tactics, the performance. Juan Carlos Osorio, the manager of Mexico, told the players before the game, I want you to play for the thrill of victory and not for the worry of the defeat. Go after it. It's another team. It doesn't matter who it is. Doesn't matter if they're defending world champions. And guess what? No. Mexico played amazingly.
No, precisely. I mean, that's the way to play it. We said that leading in. I listed this as the game to watch in the tournament, and I think it lived up. Portugal, Spain was the game to watch in the tournament. But this was a brilliant game. It was a brilliantly tactically performed game, and that's what I really loved about this. Mexico epitomized the new modern tactics of sitting back, pouncing when you have a chance, and they were getting so much love down the flanks. Is there a more important player on the pitch in the modern era than the fullback? The most forgotten position ever. The fullback, the halfback, whatever you want to call them. The Mexico was getting so much love down those flanks.
The winger, the full winger back, right? Those right wing back that we can call the Victor Moses if you're looking at Chelsea, or those type of players that will support you defensively. They're so fit that they can support you offensively as well, and they're there in the transition, if not the creator of those transitions. But Mexico, you mentioned defensively, but even before that, when they had to go after the game, they went after it. They got the goal on the run of play, a great goal. We've seen free kick goals, we've seen penalties this morning. Sweden-Korea was decided by a penalty. So you do have maybe a fondness for run-of-play goals in this World Cup, and I have to say Mexico is the best team. Out of all the teams that they played, not that they have the best players, but the performance they did put out is the best out of all the teams, all the games I've seen in this World Cup. It might be crazy to say when you have seen a Portugal-Spain 3-3 draw, but that Portugal-Spain game, well, it wasn't necessarily a beautiful performance on either side. It was advantages, free kicks, goal on the penalty spot. It was more of a chaotic type of performance that led to a lot of goals and eventually to a draw. This performance by Mexico was controlled. It was beautiful. It was intentional, right? And that intent by this team, there's no ceiling for this team right now because, no offense, Duane, Germany is really good, and we've put them in the contenders. But usually, when you lose your first game in the World Cup, it actually means you're not getting out of the group.
I think Germany will probably still be fine, but until I see otherwise. I mean, the second game's massive for them now. Obviously, they need to get 3 points in it, and they should. But That's the thing about the World Cup. It's a fine lines, man. 3 games. It's all you've got. If you lose that first one, you're in a lot of trouble. No, I mean, I think Spain looked the best to me. If De Gea didn't make that error on the goal, that they defeat an amazing otherworldly performance by Ronaldo. But that's, we're splitting hairs at that point. That was an amazing performance by Germany or by Mexico for sure. And this is the thing that I said leading into this, that I have never seen a World Cup as wide open as this. This is a World Cup that I truly do think that a non-fancied nation could potentially win it if they get a lot of luck and a lot of run of play and a lot of, get the right breaks. And now Mexico, the reason we were handicapping Mexico to not go very far in this World Cup had everything to do with the fact that they drew Germany in the group and the fact that if you look at the head in the round of 16, they have a bad draw. But now they're in position to win this group, and that changes everything.
It does change everything, and we'll have more to come in the next few days with the second games that are going to start quickly, right? It starts even tomorrow. The late game tomorrow, Russia. It's Russia-Egypt, second game of the group already. It goes by quickly. Of course, later today we have Tunisia, England. There's Belgium, Panama at 11 a.m. If you're listening to us live. If you're listening to us on a podcast version, this has already happened, and me and Duane are probably day drunk watching England somewhere, which has been a long time coming. So, I don't know. It's been almost... the World Cup started for like 5 days, and I still haven't watched England. And I guess I feel a bit like you were saying yesterday on the show. World Cup hasn't truly started until England plays or until Kevin gets hammered watching England play.
Fair enough.
And if you know me, I rarely drink. So it's one of those like twice a year type of thing.
2 pints and you're fine. No, all good. No, it should be fun today for sure. I think the World Cup starts when Brazil plays, and we'll talk about them in a minute. But no, we'll get back to Mexico, though. I really was flabbergasted by that performance. I watched it just around the corner at the place just closest to me. Place was packed with kind of mostly neutrals, and they were all totally behind Mexico as this game went on. Went up to St. Clair to watch Brazil after that, and the Mexicans were everywhere. They were having a blast yesterday. It was just an amazing performance for them, for sure. How far can Mexico go? This is the question. This is, as I said, this is a World Cup that if you get the right luck, I would not doubt any team at all going very deep in this tournament, because the game's changed and teams can figure out ways to win. And I thought that Mexico demonstrated that tactics that we've been talking about constantly in the last few days. I think Mexico demonstrated the perfect way to play them. They absolutely nailed it down. They outplayed the world champions over 90 minutes and full measure. What more can you say? It was an amazing performance. It was stunning to watch. I've watched a lot of Mexico games in my years, and they're often very good, but they're often playing teams that are weaker than them. This was not a team that was weaker than them, and they got the job done.
They got the job done, yes. Now let's move on the Germany side. Woof. What does it say about Germany? They went after Mexico, and yes, it might not be as bad as we say it is. They did have 24 attempts. 9 on target. It took Ochoa in his best form to stop every single one of them. Is it a worry for Germany? Is it a one-off? Is there some... Because there's already some people panicking, saying, oh yeah, of course, you can afford to leave Leroy Sané off the team, but you can't even beat Mexico. Is there something to this aspect? Or is it just a one-off, and we're talking about a German team that is not necessarily gelling as much, even though this Mexican team is not as Mexican focused with its players that it used to be, right? You don't have a Mexican side that plays either together or against each other at Liga MX. This is a team of Mexico with players playing abroad in every single league, and from North America to Europe to there's some from the Russian league, some from Premier League, everywhere. Lozano, PSV from the Eredivisie in the Netherlands. So you have players from Mexico that are not necessarily as used to playing each other as other Mexican team, and it's the same for Germany. So I don't know, what does it say about Germany and their team composition? Is it way too early to even have this discussion, or will game number 2 answer that?
Yeah, well, and Mexico got Marquez from the old man's home. I don't know. Anyway, no. The only thing I'll say about Sané, and I think it's a bit of a false flag. Obviously, they have so much depth, and he's an incredible player. But what he does is he brings that sort of wide creative play, which is exactly how Mexico beat them. So that's why it's so glaring. But look, what does it say about Germany? It says that Germany has to play desperate now. I'm still not. I was never convinced by them in the lead up. They looked so good in the years ahead of 2014. They really did. It was pretty clear that they were the favorite heading in. They were playing so well. They're still a brilliant team. They absolutely can win this tournament, but they haven't looked as inspired as they did in 2013, 2014. And I'm not too sure how they get that back. Maybe the loss, the classic, it's good for them. They'll rally behind it, that sort of thing. The group's not spectacular. They can still get out of this. They're going to have a tougher path if they do get out of it, assuming Mexico, wins out, which at this point you can't assume anything. But if they can't get first, then they're going to have a tougher path. I don't think it says you can't overreact to one game, except you can, because it's the World Cup and there's only 3 games.
Exactly, right? We'll get to Brazil. So we'll get to Brazil in a second. Because I went to Café Zezé, a Brazilian cafe that was rocking yesterday. You can go on my social media to see this. Those type of environment where a game is not necessarily used to be played, but it is, and it's like 10 times the amount that you're supposed to be in that cafe. But it was amazing. You get the atmosphere. And anything else on Mexico, Germany before I move on, Duane, to Brazil?
Just a great performance. Look, I enjoyed it a lot. I often will cheer for the CONCACAF teams in a World Cup because that's, I'm used to seeing them. It's not directly related to the team.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about the coefficient and maybe meaning an easier path to 2026 if we ever don't get in as hosts. But or maybe 2022. Who knows?
2022. There's another World Cup.
I
once again reiterate that CONCACAF has the most points per game than any of the non-European or South American confederations. It won't matter though.
And by the way, this is for our listeners from Montreal and from Canada and from everywhere. Duane, talking about 2026, and we were last Wednesday. Montreal Impact was playing, and Anthony Jackson did not play in the game. Kaneem as international. But he was talking to the media after, and people were like, 2026. He looked at us and then at me. He's like, don't sleep on 2022. We got a mission first, and then we'll talk about 2026. And you know what? When the guy says that, looking at you straight in the eye, kind of gave me chills.
Well, the U.S. qualified for 98, so there you go. For 90, I mean, not 98. They qualified for 98 as well. They didn't qualify for 18.
For 2018. All right, speaking of a team that did qualify, Brazil versus Switzerland. CONCACAF, former Montreal Impact player Blair Nzamali playing for Switzerland. That was interesting. The goal by Cucino, what a wonder goal. Maybe the goal of the tournament so far. About 23 yards out, just a few yards outside the box. A right foot curler off the far post, and it's in, and it's 1-0 Brazil.
I'll still take Ronaldo's goal or Kolarov's for that, but no, look, Switzerland going to Switzerland in this game is what this played out. And
Hack Neymar. I don't know if you follow basketball with the hack a shack tactics in the early 2000s. Where you just foul the best player all the time, and eventually you'll get him off his game or injured or both. Switzerland hacked a Neymar.
I cover TFC. I'm familiar with the tactic. You hack the best guy and hope you knock him off his game for sure. No, it was a sputtering, weird game. Like, as I said, Switzerland going to Switzerland. I'm being a bit flippant there, but Switzerland's a decent side. They're probably top 15 in this tournament. They'll find their way to get results. But, Brazil, we said going into this game that we had to see Brazil play before we could truly handicap the tournament. Now we've seen them play, and I'm still not convinced. I mean, obviously they're immensely talented. They have a great star in Neymar, but this is a team that was there anything you saw yesterday that made you think that this team will be playing on the 16th of July? I don't know. Like it really was.
I don't know if they're playing on the 16th because the final's on the 15th. So hopefully on the 15th they'll be playing.
A friendly against Estonia on the 16th. Yeah.
Okay, maybe. Yeah. For me, what I saw yesterday, great promise. Brazil has great potential, and we just seen Mexico play right before where the combination between the players and the quickness of the passing and the accuracy of those passing and the moving forward with the block was really helpful. Not having one superstar trying to hold on to the ball a bit too long and not buying into the team aspect, right? It's a bit what we saw yesterday with Neymar, is wanting him, feeling the pressure, he wants to, not necessarily he wants to do too much, but he's not necessarily buying into the system of getting rid of the ball really quickly to one of your teammates and moving this offensive pressure forward and creating an opportunity. Brazil is famous, 37 goals in the history of the World Cup scored from outside the box. And it's something that, yes, it's wonder goals. It's super beautiful to watch. It grabs the headlines. But the probability of replicating that goal is a lot slimmer than getting the ball into the 6-yard box and tapping it in. And to do this, you need to buy into the system of getting the ball to your teammate that's open, waiting for your opportunity to move that ball forward, pressing the opponent. You have the ball, and you still create pressure on the defense, and that's what they need to do. And to do that, Neymar has to buy into this system. Never mind the noodle hair. Never mind the who frosts their tips in 2018. Anyways, Neymar, he needs to buy into this system.
Well, yeah, that is the story of the World Cup so far, is the frosted tips have somehow disappeared. So I guess that we have to adjust accordingly. I have no hair, so it doesn't matter to me. No, look, I mean, you look at the rest of their group, and I think that if you're Peru or Denmark, for that matter, you look at that game and you go, okay, well, Switzerland got the result, so this is what we have to do. Let's wait till the second game plays out. I think Denmark is the happiest team right now, in the tournament based on that result yesterday, because they look at this and say, well, if they can hold them off for that long, and then we can too. And if we get the draw, then hey, we're top of the group probably.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting aspect to it. So we'll see.
Absolutely, we'll see. I'm happy. It's been a great World Cup. I mean, that first game was a bit of a dud. Let's not kid ourselves. But after that, this has just been a amazing, entertaining, competitive, incredible World Cup. It's just so fun. I that first game, I watched the Germany-Mexico, the second game, I guess. I watched the Germany-Mexico game yesterday, and an Irish guy sat beside me, and he was just shaking his head throughout this, going like, I love the World Cup. He just kept saying that. I love the World Cup, and I can't disagree with him. This is an incredible experience so far, and we're not even through the first round yet. Hopefully we get a good result this afternoon. I'm looking forward to watching England play. It should be a lot of fun.
And we're reviewing day 5, and I know it's a lot of games and it all blends in. I know you mentioned that it was Denmark, but you probably meant either Serbia or Switzerland, which are the other team in Brazil's group. You have Serbia, Brazil, Switzerland, and Costa Rica. Right now, Group E, Serbia is top of the group, 3 points with their win against the Los Ticos. Brazil second with 1 goal. Switzerland third as well, 1 goal. And Costa Rica fourth with no points and no goal either. So now we'll talk about the Sweden and South Korea a bit before we continue the discussion and preview very quickly today's game and tomorrow's game. This game was better than I anticipated. Sweden with the goal on the penalty. VAR went into effect again. A challenge in the box by Kim that seemed to be kind of clean at first sight, but apparently after video review it wasn't. Penalty, and Sweden, their captain, with their first goal in the World Cup since 2006, propels Sweden to 3 points to start their World Cup 2018.
Forgive me for mixing groups up there earlier, but you know my opinion on VAR. The sun, fired in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's here to stay, but
yes.
That's the thing, and this is what really I think frustrates a lot of people that aren't on the side of technology, that aren't really that concerned about perfection in the way games are called, is that penalty was such that you could still debate it. So if you can still debate it, and I actually think it was a penalty, but if you can still debate it, should VAR be getting involved? I don't think so. And you look at the game yesterday, the game, the Serbia game, where there was the massive delays at the end. How is that helping the game? I don't know.
Yeah, and not even a red card. Did you see the Costa Rica player slap the Serbian player? That should have been a red card with VAR. It was right there on our TV screen, but no, yeah. I know.
It would have been in MLS, but anyway.
It would have been in Bundesliga too. Yeah, interesting. But Sweden got the victory. South Korea was better than anticipated. But let's talk about Spygate for a second, because this was a conversation before the game. Apparently, well, not apparently, it was confirmed. There was some Sweden assistant coach in a building next to where Korea's practicing with a very powerful brand new telescope and looking at what was going on the Sweden side. And the South Korean side, and the Sweden coach mentioned, no, it was just an happenstance. And then like 2 sentences later, it's like, okay, fine, it was the most ideal spot to watch them training, and it's not a coincidence. But this Spygate then evolved to the Korean manager saying, look, it's okay because we switch players and shirts. Apparently you guys can't tell us apart anyways, so we took advantage of that.
Oh dear.
Hey, I didn't say it. The manager did. Like, this comes from the manager of South Korea, literally, word for word.
We all look the same. No, look, I have no problem with what Sweden's doing. I mean, if there's a high rise, they're in public. Okay, I went to journalism school. In journalism school, you learn the basic fact that if there's not an assumed level of privacy, anything you do and see is fair game. So I can stand on the sidewalk, and if I look through someone's window and see them commit a crime, I can report that because they didn't close their drapes. So they didn't have an assumed sense of privacy in that sense. So this is what it comes down to me.
So it's on Sweden. So it's on South Korea.
Well, it's on Russia because they put high rises beside where they're trained. But I mean, what are you going to do? You can't kick everyone out of their apartment? Like, someone could have periscoped it for them. Like, I mean, come on.
True. That's what they would gonna do for next one. They're like, okay, we got caught the first time with the high powerful telescope. Let's just put an assistant of the assistant coach. He's not as known, and put him with a phone and periscope this thing, and maybe.
Does it really matter?
No.
I mean, what are you really picking up from
here? The conversation on TSN with the panel is kind of worth it. So let's just go there for a second. You had Luke Wildman, Canadian Screen Award winner. One of the best out there, by the way. Luke Wildman was mentioning, like, dude, if it's possible, why not? It happens in everything. It happens in every sport. Then you had Stephen Calder saying, it's cheating. It's cheating. It's not in the spirit of the game. Yeah, neither is diving, though. Neither is trying to stop the ball with your hand, a la Umtiti. There's a lot of things you're not supposed to do that still happen. So, is it truly cheating? Is it truly cheating when you're trying to find the edge? Trying to find an angle here to get an advantage. I don't know. It's sports, man. Sports is kind of sport. The guy's trying to dive, and I'm trying to spy. It kind of works out.
Fair enough. Speaking of Luke Wildman, I walked into the TFC press box on Wednesday for the game just before the World Cup started, and the first thing I heard when I walked upstairs is Luke Wildman live in the moment saying, when Toronto FC needed a hero, Josie Altitar delivered, which he's repeating his most famous call ever, which I thought was kind of funny, but I'm sure there's context to that. Anyway.
If I'm him, that's what I would just, out of nowhere, people would think I have Tourette syndrome, but if I had his voice, I would probably just out of nowhere just start calling things. I'd be like, oh, when he's coming to the water fountain, look at his position with the goblet. Putting the goblet underneath the faucet, opening the faucet, and there it is, the water in the cup. If I had his voice only, if only I had his voice.
No, precisely. And for the record, when Toronto FC needed a hero, Josie Altitar delivered is a great line. He will probably never make a better call in his life. That's if you listen to Sober Second Thoughts, which you can on the Sports Podcasting Network after TFC games, you'll hear that. It's my intro. At any rate, is it cheating? I don't think it is. I mean, how is that cheating? They're not in there, like, they didn't sneak a camera into the stadium. They were doing what the public could do. So anything that the public can do that you do as well. I mean, the assistant coach of Sweden is just a member of the public when he's in that building, right? So if he can see in, True. Good for him.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, let's take a very quick break. When we come back, we'll continue to talk about today's game and tomorrow's game right here on World Cup Today. World Cup today, live daily during the 2018 FIFA World Cup. 10 minutes after the first game of the day, Duane Rollins and myself, Kevin Laramee, will give you our thoughts on the game of the day before and the upcoming game of the same day. And all this brought to you by sportsinspired.ca. Clothing inspired by greatness. Get your Call It Football t-shirt right now for a limited time. And if you subscribe to our newsletter, you get a 15% discount right now at sportsinspired.ca. And Duane, we're back. Of course, Belgium, Panama is going to start in about 35 minutes time live. And after that, Tunisia, England, the Three Lions making their debut at Russia 2018.
Rule Britannia rules the sea. No, yeah, it should be fun this afternoon. And good for Panama. I mean, I don't think Panama is going to do anything, but Matt, put yourself in the shoes, the eyes of one of their fans right now. They have a World Cup game to play in, well, right now as we're recording, in 33 minutes. And that's incredible for that nation, which really did just get better and better and better, and probably should have made 2014 if not for that late goal. And they're there, and I mean they're there at the expense of the Americans. And obviously I think the U.S. is better, but a massive accomplishment from that country.
Thank you, Trinidad and Tobago, for this ticket to the World Cup. This is all because of your wonder goal from 35 yards away and the miss by Tim Howard on that play. But speaking of something else. England, Tunisia. Yeah, Belgium, Panama will be interesting, and a few prognosticators out there are predicting a destruction of Panama by Belgium. And Panama's a bit better defensively than we expect, and Belgium is a late starter. It's not that they don't start fast. It takes time, like Eden Hazard as well. It takes time to get things going, and you need to get that chemistry going. And injury in the defense, of course. Vincent Kompany is injured, but still made the squad to the expense of Laramee of LAFC, famously, and formerly of the Montreal Impact. He was the man on the bubble. He was on the cusp. He was number 24. But even though they were injured and are not ready for game number 1, Roberto Martinez still decided to go with Vertonghen and Kompany, even though both are pretty much injured. So it's unfortunate for Laramee. Now he's enjoying the beach in LA in this short break from Major League Soccer play. But for Belgium, some defensive maybe woes because of injuries, but offensively, it shouldn't be a problem.
Vincent Kompany injured, you don't say. Anyway,
I hear some sarcasm and deception in your voice. I don't know.
He's been injured for 3 years straight at this point. At any rate, I think he's made of glass. There's not another player on earth that looks as big as Vincent Kompany and gets hurt as much. At any rate, no. But that said, the back line is the key for Belgium, and I think that in a lot of ways, starting with Panama is the perfect start. They could not have drawn this up any better for themselves because, yeah, they have so much top end talent, and Panama's not the minnow that is going to hit you with speed. So I think that they're likely able to sort themselves out at the back, play a nice controlled game, and I don't think if Saudi Arabia and Panama played, it might be 0-0, right? I think this is 1A, 1B in terms of the weakest team in this tournament. And as I said off the top, good for Panama for getting there, awesome for them. If I were in their shoes, I'd be shaking in the corner right now, weeping uncontrollably. It'd be awful. But anyway,
yeah, that's why we don't play at that level. So that's good. And but by the time you listen to this on the podcast version, of course, you already know that Belgium probably beat Panama. So let's move quickly to Tunisia and England. We mentioned the debut of the three Lions. We mentioned this crop, this generation. Is it too early? Is it too soon to have any expectations for England whatsoever? And this is worth it, even after the result of this game. If you know, can Kane, Dele Alli, Kompany, not Vincent, but like the expression, can those work for England right now, or is Qatar the target?
I still think Qatar's the target, but I'll tell you this. I told you earlier that I was talking to my Irish friend yesterday, and he's Irish, so obviously he wants the English to badly lose. That really makes everything for them. But after telling me this for 20 minutes, he eventually said, "Actually, I kind of like this England team. I think they're pretty good." And I think this is a quarterfinal team. I don't think they're much more than that, but I think this is a quarterfinal team. There's talent there. It's not as deep as other nations. It's not. They don't have, I don't know, that sort of that some of the best teams in the world have. But this is a good team. Any team that has Harry Kane can win a game, can win a group, can get to a quarterfinals. I'm very curious to see how they play today. The thing about England is there's so much pressure on them, so much external pressure put on them, and I get the feeling, and I don't know exactly how to articulate this other than just it's a hunch, that this particular England team doesn't feel that sort of crushing pressure in the same way that other England teams do. So I'm cautiously optimistic about England's chances in this World Cup. And as I said, if they make the quarterfinals, I think that's a brilliant tournament for them, and everyone's going to applaud and be happy with that. And I think that they can build and truly maybe be a contender in 2022.
Well, the fact that none of them were alive in 1990 makes a big difference in how they get ready mentally for this World Cup too. And this was the topic of discussion for a Dele Alli, for a Harry Kane, when they were mentioning the fact that you need to go into a tournament thinking you're going to win. The fact that it's true or not, if you're delusional or not, it's not the problem. As a player, you kind of have, if you're a boxer, if you're any combat sport out there, you have to go into every fight thinking you have a chance. Otherwise, guess what? Concussion is waiting for you. And in the world of football, in a tournament like this, if you go into it thinking you're beaten already, well, you're going to be. So you kind of need to go into this type of tournament thinking that you can beat anyone out there. And look, Mexico just beat Germany. So you never know. Hey, Germany and Mexico was the first true upset of this tournament, though. People saying, oh, Iran beat Morocco. Yeah, but is that truly an upset? Yeah, is that truly a big profile enough game to be called an upset? I don't know.
Well, Morocco beat Morocco, but
it's true. Technically, you're not wrong. But all right, let's move maybe too quickly to wrap the show, Duane. On tomorrow's game, the game that will happen, the last game of the first round of group stage game. It's going to happen on Tuesday. Colombia, Japan to start the day, followed by Poland, Senegal. Those will wrap up Group H, and then Russia and Egypt to start round 2 of the group stage game.
I don't think it's a particularly good group, but it's a very interesting group because I could make an argument for any of those 4 teams to get out of there. Now, we all know my opinion on the Asian teams, and I've stated it time and time again, and I've backed it up with numbers. So I kind of don't rate Japan in that. But that said, it's an interesting group. Colombia is a team that going into 2014 were sort of the hipster team, right? That a lot of people were saying, oh, watch Colombia. And they made the quarterfinals. They did very well. And they gave Brazil a good run in that quarterfinal as well. They're not as fancied right now. They're not as fancied as they were 4 years ago because they just really haven't had a great 4 years. But there's still a lot of talent on that team. So I'm curious to watch this team. This, as I said, Kevin, this is a fascinating World Cup because there are so many teams that you look at and go, with the right amount of luck, maybe they could go deep into this thing.
And you never know, right? If Germany loses another game, doesn't make it out of the group, then guess what? Someone's round of 16 game got a lot easier. And then you never know. And that someone could be anybody else. Yeah, I don't have it in front of me, so I can't really tell you who, but you never know, right? One of those surprising results happens all the time in a group stage. Spain in 2014, they were a favorite. They didn't get out of the group. England in 2014 didn't get out of the group.
Not to terrify the English fans out there, but if Germany does not win that group right now, and certainly they would need Mexico to drop points if they are to win the group, that means that the English don't have to play Germany in the quarterfinals anymore. It would be Mexico or whoever.
Yeah, exactly. Turns out that I nailed it when I was talking about it without even wanting to. I was just looking at it right now in my prediction, and it would be Germany, England in the quarterfinals on July 7th if things goes according to plan with Germany winning the group. But if not, this could be a Mexico and Costa Rica. So you never know what can happen, and we got that proof yesterday. But it all ends up that you're right. Group H, you never know what can happen. We can maybe see a Japan squeeze out, maybe not, maybe more Senegal the way they played in the qualifying process with the best team in Africa. So maybe there's that. Speaking of good teams in Africa, we're going to see Mo Salah play tomorrow. Russia, Egypt, and according to the Egyptian Football Association, Mo Salah will be fit for game number 2. But color me skeptical, Duane, because I heard them say that 2 days before game 1.
Yeah, well, they're desperate now, and who's the most terrified by this is Jurgen Klopp. But that's another topic for another day. As I said in the lead up to this, I don't think he's healthy. That was a nasty injury that he experienced in that Champions League final. He can probably play, but if he were to fall on that shoulder again, he could be out for 4 or 5 months, right? So it's all sort of a fine line. Just keeping it in the media that he perhaps might forces teams to plan for that. Look, it's too bad he's not, because Egypt would have been a very interesting team to watch otherwise. I fancied Russia going into this because of the injury concerns, and I still do leading into this game. But
if Russia wins the game tomorrow, Russia wins the group to the surprise of everyone, because Uruguay will have to fight to get another victory too. It's going to be closer than expected. Again, Uruguay-Russia might be the 2 teams coming out of Group A to the surprise of a lot, with just the surprise result that we've seen with Egypt's injury. Things change quickly, right? If it wasn't for May 26th and the Champions League final and the injury to Mo Salah 15 minutes in, Egypt would have had a different run in this World Cup, but I'm afraid it might be already too little too late, because they dropped the most important points for them in this group, and Russia is going to continue. Russia 5-win victory to start against Saudi Arabia. And guess what? Saudi Arabia, Egypt could be more interesting than we expected. Anyways.
Saudi Arabia, Uruguay. I mean, Uruguay's got to hang a score on them at this point, right?
They have to put 6, right? If you're right, it might come to differential if Russia gets the job done tomorrow. Uruguay, Saudi Arabia on Wednesday. So if Wednesday, Uruguay might need to put a touchdown on Saudi Arabia.
Or Saudi Arabia, who were really dire. Very dire. Anyway, it's fine. But what I'm hearing, my takeaway from today's show, Kevin, is that Landon Donovan's going to be leading the parade in Mexico City for the World Cup champions, right?
That was so fascinating. If you don't know what we're referring to, is there's an advertisement from Modelo and other Mexican companies that are very prominent in the United States. A advertising campaign with Landon Donovan, legend of the United States men's national team, representing the United States Soccer Federation, one of their legend, and their arch rival is El3, is the national team of Mexico, and you have Landon Donovan with a Mexican scarf, and it says on it, "My other team is Mexico," trying to get Americans behind the Mexican national team. And then this created an odd war because it's the biggest rival of Landon Donovan's career on the national team side, and you had former teammates of his like Bocanegra didn't play, but Bocanegra has a long history. He's like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you accepting money to literally denigrate the team that you're a legend of? And Hercules Gomez questioned this too. So it was an interesting conversation on Twitter. Let's just say an interesting thread following those advertisements.
Absolutely. If you don't know what we're talking about, I highly encourage you to look at Landon Donovan's Twitter feed. It was very entertaining. As you said, former teammates were ripping into him, and he was ripping back. It was very fascinating. U.S. soccer has some divides right now. Look, I don't, to talk about this seriously for a moment, I don't actually think that there should be an issue for Landon Donovan cheering for Mexico. He's played in Mexico. He's
playing like he just finished playing now. He was with Lyon, so.
Yeah, and he talks a lot. If you've ever listened to Landon Donovan talk about his origins in the sport, he talks about how he learned to play, and he became a good player by sort of jumping into the Mexican-American sort of pickup games in LA, and that's why he speaks Spanish, is because he learned it on the pitch there. So it actually probably is authentic, but I think people were taking a bit of an issue by the fact that he was taking money from the was it Wells Fargo or something, the bank. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But
Wells Fargo and Modelo, those are the two big companies that hired Landon Donovan to do similar advertisement stunts.
There's much better water to drink than Modelo out there, guys. But at any rate,
Dos Equis Especial. It's pretty good.
most interesting man in the world. Yeah, no,
Me?
whatever.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
people are
I'm
like,
glad.
this is my thing about the team CONCACAF. Who's my second team? It doesn't matter. Cheer for who you want. But I totally understand why Americans wouldn't want to cheer for Mexico. It's the same reason that I can never totally cheer for the U.S. I'm sorry, guys, I can't because
Or Duane, yeah, you're right. It's true. It's yeah, doesn't matter. At least at the national team level, we're still in a young enough country and culture of soccer that we're still getting behind our national team. Like we're not Spain. Like you don't see like Halifax Wanderers supporters against I don't know against York Nine supporters, and both are just cheering for their own players with the national team and trying to cheering against them. No, we're not there yet, and at least the United States is not there yet. Which L3 had problems in the past with divisions in the locker room. Spain has that problem right now. So those are all topics that we'll continue to follow. But Duane, yeah, I need to get ready for England and Tunisia today. But it's going to be weird to see England play in red because apparently they were wearing their red kit today.
Fair enough. I was just about to say I'll wrap it up with this. On the men's side, I will watch the U.S. men's national team, and I will sort of like kind of follow them with interest because my club team that I follow day in day out has a couple players in that team. Well, they did anyway. But when the women play, yeah, no, there's no way I would ever cheer for the U.S. women's national team. So I get the reaction to Landon Donovan.
Hi, Sid. Hello, Sydney. That's one of the reasons. There's many. We have teal. That's one of the reasons why I have sometimes. Not the best. It's not necessarily easy for me to get behind the U.S. men's national team because, well, I'm Canadian and Canada men's national team. And by the way, speaking of teal, let's finish with this. Happy birthday to Canadian legend Alex Bunbury.
Alex Bunbury had an amazing performance in the 1998 semifinal round, the last time Canada qualified for the Hex. Good guy, good Canadian boy. Came through the era where we had a league which allowed us to sort of develop and be part of the story when it came to the final round, and we have a league again starting next year. So 2022, let's do this thing. All right, Kevin, I'll let you say goodbye.
As always, you can follow Duane on social media at 24th Minute and myself at Kev Laramee. We'll be back tomorrow, 10 minutes after the first game of the day. As always, thanks to every one of you listening in the past 7 days. Over 20,000 listens in the last 7 days, the biggest week in the history of this show. And we thank you, the World Cup. We thank you to everyone who listens. Thank you to sportsinspired.ca. That's where you can get your World Cup inspired gear inspired by greatness. There's a lot of brand new collections and new products dropping every single day. There's a nice little t-shirt. If you're a Messi fan and you call Messi your GOAT, well, there's the shirt for you right there. GOAT FC available on sportsinspired.ca. And as always, until tomorrow, have a great soccer.